Hey everybody, this is Geocacher T and Photobug. Welcome to another of my historical geocaching on the road shows. Today I am on the road in Stuart, Florida at the House of Refuge, last remaining one in America. It was a house for shipwrecked sailors to come and get some rest and relaxation and sleep and food, and it's just a really cool place. Let's check it out.
Let me talk a little bit about the House of Refuge. It was built in 1875 by the U.S. Life Saving Service. If you were shipwrecked out here, your chances of survival weren't very good. We had some hostile Indians out here. We had nobody living out here much. Wild animals were out here and so on. They built 10 houses from Miami up to Daytona Beach, about every 26 miles. The keeper of the house paid $400 a year. His job after a storm was to patrol the area south and north of his house for shipwrecked survivors, bring them back to the house. He had to have food and supplies here for 10 days. Hopefully after 10 days they'd healed up enough from their injuries. You could get them out into the Indian River on the west side of the house and up to St. Augustine, or the nearest town north of here. I'd like to talk just about a couple of hurricanes. We had one in 1904 off the south end of our patio here, about 100 yards out in the ocean. George's Valentines went down. There were 7 shipwrecked survivors from George's Valentines that made it back to the house. Same hurricane, about 3 miles north of here, another ship went ashore. 15 survivors made it back, so we had 22 survivors here at one time, which is the most they ever had. This is the only House of Refuge that remains today of the original 10 that were built. House of Refuge is about 17 feet above the high tide mark, so that has protected this house for over the years. The House of Refuge is also the oldest house in all of Barton County. It's on the National Register of Historic Places in 1974. The Coast Guard came along and took over, became Coast Guard Station 207. They built a small tower here. They're looking for enemy infiltrators. They maintained it up through 1941. The United States got into World War II. January 1942, when the Germans declared war on us in support of Japan. They immediately sent U-boats or submarines over here. U-boats are right off our shore here, and they're taking aim at all of our tankers coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, around the tip of Florida, and coming up the East Coast. So this is kind of a pinch point here. All of our shipping has to come along the Florida coast here. And they're sinking ships from Jupiter right along our coast going north.
German U-boats.
German U-boats or submarines. The Navy, January 42, built a tower. This is a replica of the tower that the Navy built in 42 to look for not only shipwrecked survivors, but those German U-boats as well.
And here we are in the basement of the Gilbert's Bar House of Refuge. Some nice Indian artifacts up here. It talks about the Indians of the area and the different wrecks and the different other cool history of this house, which is really, really neat to see. Over here, found some historical markers you might like to see. Right here, I'll read it to you. Gilbert's Bar Prehistoric Site. Europeans arriving at Hutchinson Island in the 16th century found the island population by hundreds of Native Americans living in settlements bordering both the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian River. The rich marine environment provided these Native Americans with the diet of fish, shellfish, and sea animals, including whale and sea turtle. The land provided them with deer, birds, bear, snakes, and edible and medicinal plants. Because of the lack of hard stone, tools and weapons were fashioned from bone, shell, and wood. Vessels were made from gourds, wood, and clay. Wooden dugout canoes efficiently ferried groups and families from the Atlantic Ocean to the St. Lucie and Indian rivers. Archaeologists have documented numerous prehistoric sites on Hutchinson Island. Many sites have been damaged by hurricanes and looters. Gilbert's Bar House of Refuge was built on top of a prehistoric settlement dating to as early as circa 800 BC. By the late 18th century, disease, warfare, and slave raids had decimated the Native American population, so there are no known descendants of the first people of Hutchinson Island. And hey everyone, this is Geocacher TN Photobug. Here is another historical marker I thought you might like to see. It says Gilbert's Bar House of Refuge. Only one remaining of 9 Florida East Coast Commission in 1875 for the U.S. Life-Saving Service. The keepers provided shelter, food, clothing, and transportation to survivors of shipwrecks and storms at sea in the U.S. Coast Guard Service through World War I and World War II. Acquired as a maritime museum in 1955 by the Martin County Historical Society, and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and restored in 1976. Anyway, I just think that's really, really cool, and as I've been able to get some waymarks here, it's just a lot of fun. Well, I hope you've really enjoyed this tour of Gilbert's Bar House of Refuge. I sure have enjoyed learning this awesome history. Got a few waymarks, might be finding a geocache a little later that's near this place. But anyway, be sure to check out my YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/tnphotobug for more cool videos of the historical places I get to visit. And until next time, this is Geocacher TN Photobug signing out. I'm having a blast from the past.
And hey everybody, this is Geocacher TN Photobug. Just wanted to let you know that I was able to find that geocache there at Gilbert's Bar House of Refuge in Stuart, Florida. It was a really neat cache. I'm also really excited because that cache I learned was the farthest south that I've ever geocached. I was able to update those statistics. I'm really excited about that. But as I was thinking about the House of Refuge, mulling the idea over what it did, provide a place for shipwrecked sailors to recover from their trying ordeal, reminded me of another sort of refuge. That's the biblical cities of refuge. See, God told the Israelites to establish 6 cities of refuge throughout their country, and if anybody accidentally, unintentionally killed somebody else, they could run to one of these cities of refuge and be safe. And anyone who was trying to avenge the crime would not be able to get to the person who accidentally killed the other person, would be able to be kept safe. And another just perfect verse I found was in Psalms, which is 32, verses 6 to 7. And it says this. It says, "Therefore let all the faithful pray to you while you may be found. Surely the rising of the mighty waters will not reach them. You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with songs of deliverance." I think that is so perfect, especially for this House of Refuge idea. Surely the rising of the mighty waters, the waters there, the House of Refuge, huge waves crashing on the sand, very, very scary, at least to me it was. And how the verse continues on to say how God is our hiding place. He'll protect us from trouble and surround us with songs of deliverance. A promise that God will see us through even if we have hard times, and at the end we will be singing songs of deliverance because God will have delivered us through these whatever trials we may face. Another really cool Bible chapter that I like is Psalms chapter 91, and it's an awesome chapter. I definitely recommend reading the whole thing, but for this House of Refuge idea, 3 verses particularly stand out. That would be verses 1, 2, and 4. Go like this. It says, "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." Verse 4 goes on to say that God, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. God is telling us here in this chapter, in these verses, that He is our house of refuge. Isn't that cool? Did you know that you had a house of refuge? We all have storms in our life, things that don't go as we planned, bad things that have happened to us. We all have storms of some way or shape or form, and you may even feel right now that your life is being shipwrecked like those sailors off the coast of Florida. But what I want you to remember is that the very best house of refuge, God, is only a prayer away.